The desert winds of Xylar 9 cut through the canyon like sharp knives. The planet's sun, large and pale, reflected off the jagged rock faces, making the endless dunes shimmer. Lyra walked carefully, her boots leaving prints on the reddish sand. She carried her scanner and a worn map of the region. Even after years of exploring outer worlds, she had never grown used to the harsh silence that followed her on places like this. Lyra had always been a realist. She believed in facts, data, and things that could be measured. Yet here she was, tracing legends. Ancient texts told of a human named Caden, a warrior who had appeared in the darkest hours of galactic wars. They said he could defeat armies single-handedly, turn impossible battles into victories, and disappear like a ghost once the threat was gone. Most dismissed these stories as exaggerations, myths meant to inspire, nothing more. Lyra herself had laughed at them. But something about Xylar 9 felt different. The distress signal had come from Outpost Arlen, a remote mining colony near the cliffs. Lyra's orders were simple: investigate, assess, and report. When she approached the coordinates, she noticed the first signs of trouble. Smoke rose in thin columns above the jagged rocks, and faint scorch marks traced patterns on the sand as if some great machine had trampled through. Lyra crouched, scanning the area. Her sensors picked up no life signs, only scattered debris. The outpost buildings were mostly ruined. She frowned. Raiders, maybe. Or something else, she muttered to herself. There were no reports of war in this sector. Only trade disputes and minor skirmishes. Nothing that should have caused this level of destruction. She entered the remains of what was once a command center. Dust hung in the air and the lights flickered weakly. Panels were smashed and the air was filled with the metallic scent of burnt circuits. Lyra's fingers traced the edge of a shattered console. She had expected chaos, but what she saw next was stranger. There were footprints, large, human-like, but bigger than any she had seen. They moved across the floor, leading out into the tunnels beneath the outpost. A chill ran down her spine. She whispered, "Impossible. Humans aren't even here. Not anymore." Lyra followed the footprints cautiously. The tunnels were dark and narrow, carved out of the rock by miners long ago. Her flashlight cut through the shadows, revealing walls etched with alien symbols. Some had been partially destroyed. Others seemed to glow faintly. She paused, noticing one symbol in particular, a circle surrounding a strange emblem resembling a star and a human figure. It matched one she had seen in her research, a symbol tied to Caden. Her heart raced. "No," she said aloud, shaking her head. "It can't be real. Legends are just stories." A sudden sound echoed from the tunnel ahead. Lyra froze. It was soft at first, almost like footsteps. Then it grew louder, faster, moving in impossible rhythm. She ducked behind a pillar of rock, holding her breath. 2 alien scouts emerged, sleek and predatory, their metallic limbs clicking against the stone. They seemed to search for something, their eyes glowing with an eerie blue light. Lyra's mind raced. She knew she couldn't fight them alone. She gripped her sidearm, but the weapon felt weak, almost laughable against these creatures. Just as the aliens turned toward her hiding place, a shadow moved from the opposite end of the tunnel. A figure leaped forward, faster than her eyes could follow, striking the aliens with a precision that seemed unreal. In seconds, both scouts were incapacitated, groaning and retreating. Lyra's jaw dropped. The figure turned toward her, a man, tall and muscular, dressed in a suit of armor that shimmered faintly under her light. His eyes were sharp, calculating, and his movements were calm, controlled, yet full of power. "You're real," Lyra whispered, almost afraid to speak. The man gave a faint smile. "I have always been real," he said quietly. His voice carried authority, but also calm reassurance. "And you are?" Lyra Kestrel. I thought the legends." She trailed off, unsure of what to say. "Legends have a way of hiding the truth," he replied. "And sometimes the truth waits for the right moment." Lyra studied him carefully. He was human, yet nothing about him seemed ordinary. There was strength in his stance, a sense of awareness that felt almost inhuman. You're Caden," she said finally, testing the words. He nodded. "I am, and you have questions. But first we must leave. They are not alone." Lyra hesitated. She had spent her life studying ancient civilizations, fighting for knowledge. But now here was the living proof of a legend she had doubted. Her rational mind wanted answers, yet survival instincts told her to follow. She nodded and fell into step beside him. The two of them moved swiftly through the tunnels. Caden's knowledge of the terrain was unmatched. He knew every turn, every passage. The aliens, sensing his presence, began to converge. Lyra watched in awe as Caden fought again. Not recklessly, but with exact strategy. Every move calculated. His hands were faster than she had ever seen, disabling alien weapons and using their own momentum against them. When they finally emerged into the open desert, the sky above was filled with dark shapes, alien ships hovering silently, scanning for survivors. Caden's eyes narrowed. "This is more than a raid," he said, his voice low and tense. "They've been watching, waiting." Lyra swallowed hard. The outpost was a trap, and now she realized the legends were not just tales of bravery, they were warnings. Caden turned to her. "You called me a myth," he said almost gently. "Now you see that some stories are true, but the truth is always harder than the story." Lyra nodded slowly. She had believed myths were for children and dreamers. Yet here was Caden, moving with a power and skill that defied belief. She felt a mix of fear, respect, and awe. I see now," she admitted. Caden studied the alien ships hovering above. "We have little time. I need your help, Lyra. We cannot let them take this colony." Her eyes widened. "My help. I'm not a fighter." "You don't have to be," Caden said with a faint smile. "You have knowledge. That can be just as powerful as any weapon." Lyra nodded, determination rising within her. She had spent years exploring and studying, seeking answers, searching for truths hidden in the stars. Now she realized her knowledge could save lives and perhaps even change the course of events she had only read about in dusty texts. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the desert. The wind howled, carrying the scent of burning metal and sand. Lyra felt the weight of history around her, the weight of legends, of stories that had waited for centuries to prove themselves real. Caden surveyed the landscape. "We fight not just for survival, but to show them who we are," he said. "Humans may be few, but we are capable of more than they can imagine." Lyra felt a spark of something she had never known. Hope. For the first time, the stories she had doubted seemed real, alive and necessary. She looked at Caden, and for a moment she saw not a myth but a human being whose courage and skill could inspire others. The first signs of battle were already beginning. Alien ships descended, scanning for targets. Lyra prepared her tools and devices, ready to assist Caden as best she could. She did not yet understand the full scope of what they faced, but she knew one thing. The legends were real, and she would not stand aside. The desert of Xylar 9 roared around them. Legends, truth, and destiny had collided. And in that harsh light, Lyra realized that history was about to be written. Not in stories, but in action, courage, and the living proof of a myth come to life. Above the dunes, the alien ships moved closer. Lyra's heart pounded. She could not yet imagine the battles to come, the choices they would face, or the full truth of Caden's legacy. But one thing was clear. She had witnessed the impossible. A human legend had walked out of the stories and into her life, and now there was no turning back. The alien ships hovered over the desert like dark clouds, casting long shadows across the jagged rocks of Xylar 9. The sun had dipped lower, giving the landscape an orange-red glow that made the ruins of Outpost Arlen look even more abandoned. Lyra's heart pounded. She had never seen ships like these. Sleek, metallic, and almost alive in design, they moved with silent precision, scanning the ground below for any signs of life. Beside her, Caden stood tall and calm. His eyes scanned the horizon, sharp and unyielding. Unlike Lyra, fear did not touch him. It had been decades since he had faced overwhelming odds, and every battle had honed him into the human legend the galaxy whispered about. "They're searching for survivors," Lyra whispered. "We need to get inside the tunnels," Caden nodded. "They expect to find nothing. That is why we have an advantage. Follow my lead and stay low." The two of them moved swiftly, stepping over debris and avoiding open areas where the ship's sensors could detect them. As they approached a narrow canyon leading into the deeper ruins, a sudden metallic click echoed behind them. Lyra froze. Two alien scouts emerged from the shadows, their limbs moving with mechanical precision. Their glowing blue eyes locked on her instantly. Lyra's mind raced. She raised her sidearm, but she knew it would not be enough. Her hand shook. Before she could react further, Caden leaped forward. His movement was almost too fast to follow. In a single motion, he grabbed the nearest scout, twisting its limbs and using its own strength against it. The alien fell to the ground, stunned but not completely defeated. Caden pivoted, striking the second scout with a precise blow that sent it crashing into the canyon wall. Lyra watched, mouth open. How did you do that?" she whispered. Caden did not answer immediately. His focus never left the remaining alien. "We don't have time for questions. We move." He grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the canyon. They ran through twisting tunnels, Caden moving like he had done this 1,000 times before. Lyra stumbled occasionally, but he was always there to steady her. The alien scouts, faster than she expected, pursued them, but Caden was faster. "Do you always fight like this?" Lyra asked breathlessly, glancing at him. "I fight to survive," Caden replied simply, "and to protect those who cannot defend themselves." Lyra's admiration grew, but so did her fear. She had read stories about human courage, but witnessing it in action was far different. Every move Caden made was precise. He could strike, dodge, and anticipate attacks in ways that seemed impossible for a single human. She realized then why the legends of Caden persisted across centuries. The tunnel opened into a large chamber, once a storage hall, now filled with scattered crates and broken equipment. The alien scouts entered behind them, hissing and clicking as they searched. Caden turned, his stance calm and commanding. "Stay behind me," he said. Lyra nodded, holding her breath. Caden moved forward, his hands and feet in constant motion. He used the environment to his advantage, kicking crates to block paths, creating traps with broken wires, and striking the aliens' joints with inhuman precision. The scouts tried to flank him, but every attempt failed. Finally, the last scout fell to the ground, motionless. Caden took a deep breath and wiped dust from his hands. Lyra approached him, eyes wide. You're real," she said again. "I thought humans like you only existed in stories." Caden smiled faintly. "Stories often contain a seed of truth. But truth is harder than fiction." Lyra shook her head. "No, I mean, you're more than real. You're incredible. How can any human, be like this?" "I am not like others," Caden said quietly. "I am what humans can become when they refuse to give up, when they fight for more than themselves. That is why the stories survived." Lyra looked at him, finally beginning to understand. She had always studied alien civilizations and their histories, but she had underestimated her own species. Humans were not only capable of surviving harsh worlds, they could inspire hope, courage, and change even in impossible situations. A sudden sound drew her attention. Outside the chamber, a loud rumble shook the ruins. The alien ships had landed nearby, releasing more ground forces. Lyra's heart sank. There were too many for them to fight alone. Caden's expression hardened. "We cannot stay here. They will overwhelm us if we do." He led Lyra through a series of hidden passages he knew well. They climbed narrow staircases, crawled through tunnels blocked by fallen debris, and finally emerged onto a ridge overlooking the main outpost. From there, they could see the alien troops swarming through the ruins below, searching for survivors. Lyra's scanner beeped frantically. "There are civilians, miners, technicians. They're trapped." Caden's eyes narrowed. "Then we save them. Follow my lead and stay close." They moved down the ridge, using the rocks for cover. Caden dispatched patrols silently, never leaving a trace. Lyra watched him work, learning quickly. She began to notice patterns in his movements, how he predicted the aliens' actions, how he used their strength against them, and how he always prioritized safety over unnecessary risk. When they reached the first group of trapped civilians, Lyra gasped. Children, adults, and elderly miners huddled together, fear written across every face. Caden knelt beside them. "Do not be afraid," he said firmly but kindly. "We will get you out." Lyra helped guide the civilians, using her knowledge of the tunnels to find the safest path. Caden led the way, neutralizing threats with calm efficiency. For the first time, Lyra felt that humans were not just survivors. They were protectors. Legends were not exaggerations. They were records of what humans could achieve when courage and intelligence combined. As they led the last group toward safety, an alien war horn sounded from the canyon above. Reinforcements were coming. Lyra's heart pounded. She looked at Caden, fear and awe mixing in her expression. "They're not done yet," he said, voice steady. "But neither are we." He scanned the area, his eyes sharp. "We need a distraction. I will draw their attention. You get the civilians to safety." Lyra hesitated. "Alone?" Caden gave her a firm look. "You can do this. Trust yourself. Trust the humans who came before me." With that, he sprinted toward the alien forces, moving like a shadow, unseen and unstoppable. Lyra's jaw dropped as she watched him leap, spin, and strike with precision that seemed impossible. The aliens were momentarily stunned, giving her the chance to lead the civilians to a hidden cave Caden had pointed out earlier. Once the last civilian was inside, Lyra crouched, listening. She could hear the clash of combat echoing from the canyon. Caden's movements were fluid, controlled, and deadly. She realized the legends had not lied. They had only simplified the truth. Caden was not just strong, he was brilliant, fearless, and fast beyond any ordinary human. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Eventually, the alien forces withdrew, unable to overcome Caden's skill and strategy. The desert grew quiet once more, the sun dipping further below the horizon. Lyra waited, tense, until she finally saw him emerge from the canyon. Dust and scratches covered his armor, but he was unharmed. He smiled faintly when he saw her. "They won't be back for now." "You did well," he said, nodding toward the cave where the civilians were safe. Lyra felt a mixture of relief and awe. "I've never seen anything like that. You are real, and more than anyone could imagine." Caden's expression softened. "I am what humans can be. Legends are born from the choices we make, from our courage and our will to survive. You are part of that story now." Lyra looked at him, understanding for the first time that legends were not just stories. They were proof of potential. Humans could rise above fear, above doubt, and achieve the impossible. And standing before her was living proof of that potential. As night fell over Xylar 9, the desert wind whispered across the dunes. Lyra knew the journey was far from over. The alien threat had not vanished, and Caden's role in the galaxy's unfolding history was far from complete. Yet for the first time she felt hope. Hope that humans could truly be more than myths, and hope that she would witness history being written in real time. And somewhere in the darkness, among the shifting shadows of the alien ships, Lyra realized that she had seen a legend awaken, and she would never doubt again. The desert of Xylar 9 was quiet under the night sky, but the calm was deceiving. Alien scouts patrolled the outskirts of the abandoned outpost, their sensors flickering in the darkness. Lyra and the civilians huddled in the hidden cave Caden had shown them, but she could feel the tension pressing on every side. She had expected danger, yes, but she had never seen anything like the humans standing before her. Caden's eyes scanned the horizon from the ridge above the cave. His armor was scratched and dust-streaked, but his posture was unyielding, almost statuesque. "They will return," he said calmly. "And when they do, we will need to be ready." Lyra nodded. "I want to help, but I'm not a fighter." "You have intelligence," Caden replied. "Knowledge can be more powerful than brute force. You can predict, plan, and guide. That will save lives." She glanced at the civilians. Their faces were pale and scared, but the presence of Caden gave them hope. If the legend was real, perhaps survival here was possible. Lyra swallowed her fear and set to work. She began mapping the terrain, noting safe paths, choke points, and places the aliens could not reach. Caden watched quietly, nodding approvingly. Hours passed. Then the distant hum of alien engines broke the silence. The main force had arrived. Hundreds of alien soldiers and ground machines moved across the desert, their sensors scanning for life. Lyra's heart raced as Caden stepped forward to meet them. "Stay back," he said firmly. "I will draw them toward me. You guide the civilians out when the moment comes." Lyra obeyed, her mind working fast. She had studied alien tactics before, but nothing prepared her for the sheer scale of this force. The aliens were organized, coordinated, and relentless. But Caden, he was something else entirely. He moved like a shadow across the dunes, striking swiftly at key targets, disappearing before they could react. He disabled enemy vehicles with precise throws and timed movements. Each strike was deliberate, calculated, yet executed with incredible speed. Lyra watched in awe, realizing that the stories she had read were not exaggerations. They were only simplified versions of his abilities. One of the alien machines targeted Caden directly. It fired a bright energy beam aiming to disintegrate him instantly. Caden twisted midair, rolling to the side, and struck a weak point on the machine. It exploded, sending a shockwave across the desert. Lyra stumbled but caught herself. She had never seen a human move with such agility and power. "They're going to focus on you next," Lyra said, trying to think ahead. "Good," Caden replied calmly. "It means the others will have a chance to escape." Lyra turned her attention to the civilians, guiding them through narrow passages and behind hidden rocks. Every movement was tense, every sound a warning. But Caden's strategy worked. The aliens were drawn to him, and for the first time, Lyra began to understand what made humans special. It was not just strength or speed, it was creativity, courage, and the ability to inspire others. Suddenly, an alien war horn sounded. From the dunes, a larger enemy commander appeared, a warlord of the alien army, massive and imposing, with glowing armor and weapons that pulsed with energy. He paused, staring directly at Caden. You are the one they call Caden, the warlord's voice boomed. The human legend. You cannot hide from us forever. Caden's eyes narrowed. I do not hide. I fight. Lyra felt a chill. She had not expected the legends to know of him personally, yet here he was, facing the living embodiment of an alien army. She had read of battles between humans and aliens, of victories that turned the tide of wars, but she had never imagined witnessing them firsthand. Caden moved toward the warlord, each step deliberate and unafraid. The alien commander raised his weapon, a massive energy blade crackling with power. Caden met him head-on, dodging the first strike with inhuman reflexes. He struck back, targeting the commander's weak points, exploiting gaps in his defense. Lyra could hardly keep up with the battle. Every move Caden made seemed impossible. He ducked under attacks that should have crushed him, flipped over massive enemies, and countered blows before they landed. And yet he was not reckless. Each action was precise, measured, and effective. He's incredible, Lyra whispered, barely able to comprehend what she was seeing. The legends? They're true, Caden's voice carried across the battlefield. Humans are capable of more than you think. The civilians watched from their hiding place, eyes wide in awe. They had expected a human to be vulnerable, weak, and mortal. Instead, they saw someone who could challenge an entire alien force alone. Fear slowly shifted into hope. The alien commander roared, summoning reinforcements. Waves of alien soldiers and machines moved in from all directions, aiming to surround Caden. But he anticipated it. Using the terrain, he led them into traps, using sandstorms, rocks, and debris to slow their advance. He disabled their machines with quick strikes and clever maneuvers, showing skill and strategy beyond ordinary humans. Lyra felt inspired. She realized that humans could be unpredictable in ways aliens could not calculate. Courage, ingenuity, and determination were strengths the legends had highlighted, and now she saw them in action. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Caden fought tirelessly, never faltering, never slowing. Lyra guided the civilians through hidden paths, moving them to safer ground, all the while watching the legend prove itself again and again. Finally, the alien commander fell, defeated by Caden's skill and intelligence. The remaining alien forces retreated, unwilling to face him further. The desert grew quiet once more, the night sky stretching endlessly above. Lyra sank to the ground, exhausted but exhilarated. Caden approached, dust covering his armor, but his expression calm. They will regroup, he said. And when they do, we must be ready. But for now, this battle is won. Lyra looked at him, awe and respect shining in her eyes. I cannot believe it. You are more than a legend. You are human, Caden smiled faintly. I am human. But humans are more than myths. We survive, we adapt, and we fight when it is necessary. That is why legends are born. Lyra nodded slowly. She had doubted the stories, laughed at the myths, and believed humans were ordinary. But standing here, watching Caden, she realized that humans were capable of extraordinary things. Courage, intelligence, and determination could make a single person change the course of events, even against overwhelming odds. The first signs of dawn appeared on the horizon, painting the desert in golden light. The battle was over for now, but Lyra knew it was only the beginning. Caden's legend had proven itself once again, but the galaxy was large and threats were never-ending. Lyra turned to him. What now? Caden looked at the rising sun, then back at the desert ruins. We prepare, we train. We ensure that humans and our allies are ready for the next challenge. Legends are not just stories, they are responsibilities. Lyra smiled faintly, inspired. Then I want to be part of it. I want to help. I want to see what humans can truly do. Caden nodded. Good. You have courage, and that is the first step. Knowledge combined with bravery is a powerful thing. Together we can face what comes next. The desert wind swept across Xylar 9, carrying the scent of dust, sand, and distant fires. Lyra felt a surge of hope she had never known. The legends were true. Humans were capable of greatness, and she would witness history being written by one of the greatest of them all. Above them, the alien ships vanished into the horizon, retreating to regroup for the battles to come. But Lyra knew that as long as Kaidan stood, as long as humans were willing to fight, hope would remain. The myths were no longer stories. They were reality, alive and present in a human who had become more than anyone thought possible. And somewhere deep inside, Lyra realized that her journey had only just begun. She would learn, she would fight, and she would bear witness to the truth of human potential. The legend of Kaidan was real, and she would be part of the story that proved it to the galaxy. The alien flagship hung above Xylar 9 like a dark, massive shadow. Its surface shimmered with energy fields, pulsing faintly as it hovered silently over the desert. Lyra's breath caught as she gazed at it through a scope. This was no ordinary alien vessel. It was a fortress in the sky designed for war with weapons capable of leveling the outpost in seconds. Beside her, Kaidan crouched behind a rock ridge, his calm demeanor unwavering. "This is where the real test begins," he said, voice steady. His eyes scanned the ship and the troops emerging from it, moving toward the desert surface with coordinated precision. "The warlord will come. We must be ready." Lyra nodded, trying to steady her own fear. She had followed Kaidan through battles before, but this felt different. The scale was larger, the danger greater. And now, the enemy was personal. The warlord had recognized Kaidan, calling him out by name. As the alien troops spread across the desert, Kaidan turned to her. "I need you to stay focused. You'll help from here." Lyra glanced at the control panels she had set up, connecting her scanners to the terrain. "I can guide you, track their movements, and give you openings," she said. Her hands moved quickly, tapping the console to reroute sensors and set traps for the incoming troops. Kaidan gave a nod of approval. "Good. Keep your eyes sharp." Moments later, the warlord appeared on the battlefield, towering over the alien soldiers. He wielded an energy blade that crackled with power. His armor glowed in a menacing blue light, and his eyes locked on Kaidan. "You cannot escape me," the warlord boomed. "Legends do not survive forever." "I do not escape," Kaidan replied, stepping forward with calm confidence. "I fight." Lyra's heart pounded. She could see the immense size and strength of the warlord, yet Kaidan did not hesitate. He moved forward, dodging the first swing of the energy blade, rolling across the sand and striking with precise timing. The warlord staggered slightly but recovered quickly, swinging again with relentless power. Kaidan's movements were almost impossible to follow. He used the desert terrain, kicking up sand to obscure the warlord's vision, ducking under blows and countering with pinpoint strikes. Lyra watched in awe. Every action Kaidan took was calculated, measured, and effective. He's incredible," she whispered. "The legends, they're real." Kaidan's focus never wavered. He used both strength and strategy, exploiting every weakness in the warlord's attacks. Lyra noticed patterns, how Kaidan anticipated the warlord's swings, how he redirected energy, and how he created opportunities for advantage. Humans were unpredictable in ways the aliens could not calculate, and Kaidan demonstrated this with every move. Lyra's hands moved quickly over her console, assisting Kaidan. She redirected sensor signals, activated defensive shields, and marked weak points in the warlord's armor. Though she was not physically fighting, her guidance gave Kaidan a tactical edge. The warlord roared, summoning reinforcements from the alien ships above. Hundreds of soldiers and machines moved toward them, intending to overwhelm Kaidan. But Kaidan was ready. He lured them into traps Lyra had helped design. Rock slides, narrow passes, and explosive devices made from salvaged outpost materials. The alien troops fell back, disoriented and confused, unable to predict Kaidan's maneuvers. Lyra could feel her pulse quicken as she saw civilians safely moving to hidden areas, protected by the defenses they had set up together. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Caden and the warlord clashed again and again. Blows met with sparks, strikes were deflected, and the sand of the desert shifted under the force of their combat. Lyra marveled at Caden's endurance. He moved tirelessly, never faltering, always precise. She realized the legends had not exaggerated, they had simplified. Caden was not just a hero, he was a master of strategy, combat, and human ingenuity. Finally, the warlord made a mistake. He swung too wide, leaving an opening. Caden seized the moment, striking at the weak points Lyra had marked. The warlord staggered, his armor cracking, energy flickering. Caden pressed forward with speed and precision, striking again and again, until the warlord fell to one knee, defeated but alive. Caden stepped back, breathing evenly, his eyes never leaving the alien commander. "Humans are not myths," he said firmly. "We fight, we survive, and we protect those who cannot defend themselves." Lyra felt a surge of awe and relief. She had witnessed the impossible. The human she had doubted, the legend she had questioned, had faced a warlord and prevailed. She understood now why the stories had lasted for centuries. Humans were capable of extraordinary things when courage, intelligence, and determination combined. The alien ships began to retreat, regrouping far above the desert. The immediate threat had ended, but Caden knew it was only temporary. He turned to Lyra. "They will return. The war is far from over. But today we have proven something important, not just to them, but to ourselves." Lyra nodded, finally understanding the truth she had resisted for so long. Legends were not just stories. They were records of human potential, of bravery and ingenuity. Caden was proof that humans could rise above impossible odds, and that hope could be stronger than fear. "Your guidance helped," Caden said, acknowledging her role. "Humans are strongest when we work together. Knowledge and courage are equally important." Lyra felt a swell of pride. She had doubted the stories, doubted humans, and doubted herself. But now she saw clearly. Humans could face overwhelming danger, think creatively, and fight with unmatched courage. And standing before her was living proof. The first rays of dawn broke across the desert, painting the dunes in gold. The battlefield was quiet, the sand littered with signs of combat. Lyra looked at Caden, realizing that the legend had done more than fight. He had inspired, protected, and proven that humans were more than myths. Caden's eyes scanned the horizon, already planning the next move. "The warlord will recover, we must be prepared. But today, we have shown what humans can do. That is the first step toward the future." Lyra smiled faintly. She knew the journey. Ahead would be dangerous, full of unknown challenges, but she no longer feared it. She would stand by Caden, learning, fighting, and witnessing the truth of human potential. Above the desert, alien ships moved away, signaling their temporary defeat. But Lyra knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and threats would come again. Yet now she had seen the impossible, and she knew that with courage, knowledge, and determination, humans could overcome anything. Caden turned toward her. "Are you ready for what comes next?" Lyra met his gaze, determination shining in her eyes. "I am. I want to see what humans can truly do, and I want to help." Caden nodded, a faint smile appearing on his face. "Then we continue. Legends are not just stories. They are responsibilities. And today we have begun writing a new one." The desert wind swept across Xylar 9, carrying the scent of dust and sand. Lyra felt hope surge within her. Humans were real, strong, and capable of extraordinary things. And standing beside her was proof, living, breathing, and unstoppable. As the sun rose higher, the desert came alive with possibility. Caden and Lyra prepared to face whatever challenges the galaxy would send. Together, they would prove that legends were not just stories. They were real, alive, and waiting for those willing to fight. The desert of Xylar 9 was alive with movement once more. Alien ships hovered above the horizon, their engines humming a low, threatening note. The civilians that Caden and Lyra had guided to safety were now gathering in makeshift shelters. fortified by barricades of rock and salvaged machinery. The air was tense, but the glimmer of hope lingered. Humans and allies were ready to fight, not just to survive, but to make a statement to the galaxy. Lyra crouched beside her console, scanning the desert below. She had spent hours marking paths, predicting enemy movements and relaying instructions to civilians and allied fighters hidden in the terrain. Her hands moved swiftly, guided by both fear and determination. She had witnessed Caden's skill, his bravery, and his legendary precision. Now it was her turn to contribute, to be part of the story that would confirm the myths as truth. Caden stood on a ridge overlooking the battlefield, his figure sharp against the rising sun. His armor gleamed faintly, reflecting the light as he surveyed the alien forces. The warlord from before had survived, regrouping his troops for one last push, but Caden was not alone. Humans had arrived in small numbers, reinforcements from nearby colonies who had heard the stories and believed in the legend. And they fought with courage inspired by Caden's deeds. "Lyra," Caden said, turning toward her, "the civilians are safe. The rest is up to us. Guide the allies, coordinate the defenses, and trust your instincts." Lyra nodded, her pulse racing. She had studied strategies in theory, but now she was applying them in real life. Every decision mattered. She directed groups through hidden paths, rerouted supplies, and gave real-time updates on alien movements. Caden's presence inspired everyone, but her guidance kept them alive. Together they formed a human-led force that could withstand the enemy. The alien forces surged forward, their machines and soldiers spreading across the desert. Caden moved like a shadow, striking at the most dangerous points first. He neutralized alien war machines with unmatched skill, dodging energy beams and disarming traps before they could harm anyone. His movements were almost impossible to track, faster than any alien could anticipate. Lyra's eyes widened. "Every story was true," she whispered. "Every legend, real." The warlord emerged from the ranks, roaring in frustration. He had witnessed Caden's skill before and could not forget the humiliation of defeat. He raised his energy blade, calling out to his soldiers to surround the humans. But Caden was already ahead of him. With precise calculation, he struck, forcing the warlord back, dodging attacks with speed and control. Every strike was methodical, combining strength, agility, and strategy. Lyra's guidance proved critical. She marked weak points in enemy formations, highlighted safe zones, and helped coordinate flanking movements. Humans and allied forces moved with purpose, exploiting gaps in the alien ranks. The desert became a controlled battlefield, and though danger was constant, they survived because of their unity and intelligence. Hours passed like moments. The alien warlord made one final attempt to break through. He swung his energy blade with full force, aiming directly at Caden. The strike would have crushed an ordinary human, but Caden anticipated it, twisting mid-air, deflecting the attack, and striking the warlord's armor at its weakest point. The energy blade flickered, sparks flying, and the warlord stumbled, defeated. A cheer rose from the hidden civilians and allied forces. The legend had not only survived, but had proven itself true once more. Lyra felt a mix of awe, relief, and pride. She had doubted the stories, questioned the myths, and now understood that humans were capable of greatness beyond imagination. Caden lowered his weapon, breathing steadily, his eyes scanning the battlefield. The remaining alien forces hesitated, unsure whether to retreat or press forward. Lyra could see the hesitation in their movements. Humans had shown strength, courage, and unity that no alien could predict. "Now," Caden said calmly, "we finish this." With coordinated precision, Caden led a final assault. Using terrain, traps, and clever tactics, they forced the remaining alien forces to retreat. Ships lifted off, machines were disabled, and soldiers fled in confusion. The desert was quiet again, but this time, the silence felt like victory. Lyra looked at Caden, her admiration deep and unwavering. "I thought legends were just stories," she said softly. "But you proved them true, and more than that, you've shown what humans can do." Caden smiled faintly. "Legends are born from courage, from choices, and from actions that inspire others. Humans are capable of more than anyone believes, especially when we fight together." The civilians emerged from hiding, faces filled with relief and gratitude. They had survived the impossible because a human legend had stood between them and annihilation. Lyra felt tears prick her eyes. She had witnessed history, seen courage in action, and understood the truth. Humans were not myths. They were proof of potential and resilience. As the sun climbed higher, Caden and Lyra helped the survivors rebuild, organizing supplies and repairing shelters. The battle had ended, but the story was far from over. Word would spread across the galaxy. Humans had faced overwhelming odds and had triumphed. The legend of Caden was no longer just a story, it was reality. Lyra approached Caden as he oversaw the repairs. "The galaxy will know the truth now," she said. "Your legend." "It's confirmed," Caden nodded, a faint smile crossing his face. "It is not just my legend. It is the story of all humans, the courage, the ingenuity, and the will to survive. Today they witnessed it. Tomorrow the galaxy will." Lyra felt a surge of pride. She had doubted, questioned, and feared, but now she understood. Humans were more than myths. They were capable of inspiring hope, changing outcomes, and surviving against impossible odds. And she had seen it firsthand. The desert wind swept across Xylar 9, carrying the scent of sand and distant fires. Civilians moved through the dunes, rebuilding their homes, while humans and allies prepared for future challenges. Caden stood on the ridge, looking at the horizon. The galaxy was vast, filled with threats and challenges, but also with possibilities. Lyra stood beside him. "What now?" she asked. "Now," Caden said, "we continue. We prepare for the next threat. We protect the innocent, and we show the galaxy that humans are not myths. They are a force to be reckoned with. And you, Lyra, have a role in this story too." She smiled. "I'm ready. I want to see how far humans can go, and I want to be part of it." Caden looked at her with approval. "Good. Courage, intelligence, and determination. Those are the pillars of human strength. Together, we will prove that legends are real, and we will inspire others to rise to their potential." The alien ships had vanished, retreating into the darkness of space, but Lyra knew the peace would not last forever. The galaxy was large and threats were endless, yet now there was hope, a proof that humans could rise, survive, and conquer the impossible. The civilians returned to their work. Children playing in the dust, families rebuilding, and humans teaching others how to defend themselves. Lyra watched, feeling a sense of accomplishment she had never known. She had doubted, feared, and questioned, but she had seen humans at their best. She had witnessed the truth of legends. Caden turned to her one last time before moving toward the ridge. "Remember this," he said. "Humans are not just survivors. We are capable of greatness. We are legends in the making, and the galaxy will remember today, not because of fear, but because of courage and hope." Lyra nodded, a smile spreading across her face. "I'll make sure the story is told. The truth of humans, our strength, our courage, our hope. The galaxy must know." As the sun fully rose, the desert glowed with golden light. The battle was over, but the story had just begun. Caden, the human legend, had proven that myths were real. And Lyra, once a skeptic, now understood the truth. Humans were capable of extraordinary things. The galaxy had witnessed it. The legends were true. Humans were no longer just stories, they were a living, breathing force of courage, intelligence, and hope. And together, they would continue to shape the future, proving that even in the darkest times humans could rise, survive, and inspire. The desert wind carried the promise of tomorrow, the knowledge of courage, and the reality of legends alive. And Lyra knew with absolute certainty that she had witnessed history. She had seen a myth become real, and the galaxy would never forget.